This is part 2 of parenting plan. The last thing that we left off with on the last video was talking about out-of-state travel and interstate travel within the United States. So if you're interested in everything that we talked about from mutual respect, weekends, time sharing, travel, etc., that is in the other video, so go check that one out. That's in part 1. So this is part 2 where we discuss address use for school zoning. At the time of our mediation, I had not closed on my house yet. He was kind of making it a little difficult for me to close on my house because we were still technically married, so he was going to have to basically sign away his rights to this house so that way I could buy it. Meanwhile, he wanted me out of the other house so that way he could move back in. But it's like, I can't move somewhere else if I don't have somewhere else to go, so I need you to help me get to where I'm going, you know? So as of right now, we are using his address for school zoning so that way, you know, he could stay in the same school that he was. That is just how it is. We can go back and I actually put this in here. So in the event that, you know, he moves or he ages out of his current school, then we have to mutually agree on the next school that he goes to. So, and if we do not agree on the next school that he goes to, then we go to the court to deem what school he goes to. So for example, he goes to middle school, you know, once he hits 6th grade, does he go to the middle school by my house or does he go to the middle school that he's zoned for at the other house? I have personal thoughts and feelings about both of those options. I'm going to leave them off of here, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. The other thing is, the child named in this parenting plan are scheduled to reside the majority of the time with the father for even years, and the mother shall have the majority timeshare designation on odd years. So this is, I think, essentially to dictate who gets certain, like, well, he gets more time in even years based off of like our holiday schedule. But I think, and I could be wrong in my interpretation, but I also think that this is who gets to decide how summer break, like which weeks that they get summer break. Communication between the parents. So all communication between us, it distinctly states here by telephone, including text messaging, and by email. Personally, I have asked after this whole cell phone debacle that if there is written communication that needs to be communicated to me, that it be communicated via email. Texting just gets a little hostile. And I just don't have the energy for it. So unless it has something to do with our child and it's an emergency, I really just prefer all communications be via email, and I requested that. I also have requested recently for our communications to go through a parenting app. I think a co-parenting app would be a really good solution for us, just because we are pretty high conflict. And I think that would probably promote more mutual respect between the two of us, outside of the respect that we have communicating for our child. So telephone, so Logan has a communication watch. Unfortunately, I don't have geolocation abilities with that watch because I don't have the same T-Mobile account. He can call me, he can text me to my old number, but he does not have that ability as of right now that I can tell by now. So I have requested that, I requested to him that I am able to turn off the watch when he is in my possession, because he can track our location if he's wearing the watch or if it's in his backpack. I think that that's a little weird. We've had a couple instances where in which that the location knowledge was, I feel like a boundary was crossed, and that's just my personal feeling. And so I would just prefer if, you know, he uses the watch, he has it at school. That's the whole point of the watch. The watch is so that way he can communicate with us while he's at school if there's an emergency or something. But while he is when either of our possessions, he's got our phones to do what he needs to do. The watch doesn't need to be on. So let's see. And with that, I'm not interrupting anything. So it even talks about like interrupting communication. I'm not doing that. However, one would think that by him taking away my phone number, it violates this part of the parenting plan, because it says telephone or other electronic communication between the child and each parent shall not be monitored or intercepted in any way or interrupted by the other parent, absent of court order. I mean, now we have a court order that I relinquished the right to my phone number, but you know, that's a whole other thing. So this parenting plan may be varied on a temporary basis when both parents agree in writing. When the parents do not agree, the parenting plan remains in effect until further order of the court. So if like we wanted to change anything about this parenting plan, we would have to go through the court system. We're not allowed to relocate the child. Can't just like move the child out of state. So if we cannot cooperatively agree on anything in this parenting plan, it talks about disputes and conflict resolution, then we would have to do another mediation or dispute resolution methods. Mediation or other dispute resolution methods will not be required prior to filing court order. So if there's anything that we disagree upon in here at any time, we can file a court order however we want. So that is kind of the basics of our parenting plan. It's very bare bones. There is really just not a lot that is enforceable. I know that we all have personal feelings about parenting plans and how we feel like it should be. State of Florida, it's pretty cut and dry. Things that I really wish that I would have advocated for more of, right? If you go to part 1, I kind of touch on this, but I definitely wish I would have put in here that like one parent can't just hold all important documentation. As of right now, he has passport, social security card, and birth certificate, all 3 in his possession, and I only have a birth certificate in mine. I feel like that's a conflict to have all 3 of his most important documents in just one household. I mean, you know, anything can happen. Anything can happen with that. So I feel like I should have probably made it clear that like it has to stay in 2 households unless you're going on a travel, and then once you come back from that travel, then it gets divided back. Another thing that I wish I would have advocated for was education expenses, that it is not considered an extracurricular expense. It is considered a mandatory expense. So if there is something like tutoring, college prep, et cetera, those things are mandatory, mandatory split, 60-40, 50-50, however the courts have it. That would have been a mandatory split. It is not a choice. It is a requirement as a parent to help contribute to your child's education. I really wish I would have put that in there. What else do I wish I would have put in here? We also have, we have first right of refusal in here. I didn't even touch on that. So first right of refusal is basically if a parent is unable to watch the child, like either in the hospital, on a business trip, traveling out of state, and it's during their time, the other parent gets first dibs. So it's not like you just ship our son off to like with his grandparents or whatever if it's like a multiple day. Now, my son can spend the time with his grandmother and he can go spend time with my parents as I see fit during my time. But if I were like in the hospital, I would have to be like, hey, can you take him? I'm unable to watch him. So if there's ever an inability to watch the child, they get first right of refusal, and it goes both ways. That was a really big issue when we first kind of separated, is that my son really likes to spend the night at his grandparents' house. So like both his mom too and my mom. And there was a night where he asked me if he could spend the night, and I said yes. And he was like, well, you know, I should get first right of refusal. And I'm just like, that's not how first right of refusal works. I'm not unable to watch him. He is choosing to spend the night at his grandparents. I don't want to limit the relationship. And that was a huge reason why I had to make sure that it was very clear in the parenting plan of first right of refusal. So this is part 2. This is the final part of parenting plan. What is in mine, what you can include in yours, get some thoughts. Use ChatGPT to help you frame out a parenting plan that is relevant in your state. I know everybody's like environmental impact, whatever. Listen, I get it, but being prepared is the most important thing for you in this stage if you're getting a divorce. And that is all I'm going to say about that. So there you go.